So here I am back with these silly drawings. So here's my thought on the KeyTar, which I like the name KeyTar because it sounds like guitar instead of centaur. So I'm going to stick with that. Now, my model of what a KeyTar would be is different, and that's why I wanted to make this video. So this side here, which would be the left hand, would be the chord side, which also means double stops, which also means rhythm side. This side here would be the lead solo side. And so you could also have bass on this side if you wanted to disable the chord mode. Okay, now the key to this is you have the left hand that's now busy, which it actually is on the guitar. And so this is like a let's say electronic version of a fretboard, but it's not quite the same. Whereas this stuff sort of functions like a fretboard, and when you play it with your left hand, it's going to do similar things, and it's going to actually play like in a similar fashion where the note goes up when you go like this, which makes sense because on a piano, it's a little different feeling. Because if you turn the keyboard upside down, it might be a little confusing as well. But on a guitar, that's exactly the way it works, so it still makes sense to do it that way. Anyways, so the important thing is this. The critical part of KeyTar is the double stop mode. And the critical part of what makes this version of a KeyTar cool is, so this whole thing is going to be, half of it is mute, and then this half is open string. And this cool thing is the sweet spots would be, towards the middle. So there'll be like a bleed in the sample engine or the physical modeling engine, however they do it. And so the bleed will bring back the authenticity, the depth of tone into the guitar. So therefore, it doesn't have to be one style of like machine gun style mute. Instead, you can be a little bit more towards the open string, because all of these strings are always in this vertical way playing the same note. And it's not like that's where it differs from the guitar. Because in a guitar, you're obviously going, when you go up the strings, you're playing higher and higher notes. On this, it's split. So this half is the low chords and this half is the high chords. So if you were doing disco, you're going to go over here. And if you're doing, hard rock or metal, you're going to be over here. Now, of course, when you do, the blendings of those things, like, hard rock with the high double stops, that'll be available as well, but you just simply need to go over here to get to those high notes. Now, another cool feature is both of these keyboard systems should have basically the entire thing acting as a pitch. So this is, the scale is going up like this, and so the entire ribbon controller is built into this fake fretboard. And so therefore, if you want to do like slide mutes, you simply slide. You there's no worrying about hitting a certain ribbon controller or a slider. You just simply slide anywhere on this position, right? So that also makes it cool. Another thing that makes this section cool is a fake tuner. Because what's one of the cool things about a guitar is the ability to mess up the tuning structure. So in that way, you could dial in a different modality to tuning, so that if you wanted to have more abstract chords or a different way of tuning, like unison tuning, or anything you can imagine with chords or tuning, you simply mess with the fake tuner and it will change how each of these notes operates. So in other words, instead of operating as a straight B, it can be unison B, or it can be, something else, like with a slant to it. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's not quite the same as like a normal tuning on a guitar, but it can get you some variety. You can make some more Eastern sounds versus Western sounds, or beyond all that. Okay, so over on this side, where we're talking about the lead stuff, This is where this whole thing operates again as a ribbon controller or effect. I forgot to mention that part as well. So let's say you wanted to have a ring modulator come in, when you're sliding, right? So maybe the ring modulator engages to do the sliding, or maybe the ring modulator engages, in a certain way. You know what I mean? So on both of these, you can have an effect as the ribbon, but on the bass level, it would really be ideal, since we're kind of getting in the vein of the guitar, to have just pitch control. So, and how do you do that with keyboard? Well, once again, the whole unit is a ribbon controller, but also the keys are low profile. And so when the keys are low profile, what does that mean? It's like a keyboard. You slide right on over the key, and it will produce that pitch bend effect, or the double stop effect, or whatever the heck. And so it's similar to like if you were grabbing a chord and you could just drag that chord up like this. Well, that's what you can do on this low profile key. By low profile, I mean the keys are just low, so you don't bump into another like sharp or something. You just simply slide on over. So it doesn't have to be totally flat, because that might confuse your hand. But at the same time, it could be. It could be like a totally flat, as long as you know where the sharps and flat. But it is somewhat helpful in terms of not looking down at the keys, to have some kind of indicator. So that's on this side where you're playing the leads. Okay, and another thing that's missing in action with KeyTar is pickup selector. So one of the cool parts of the guitar, and of course you can have a wind bar too to do other things, but one of the cool parts with the guitar is the ability to change the functionality or create cool effects from the pickup selector. I can't tell you how cool that is. So, but because this is an electronic instrument, that means it doesn't have to subscribe to the physical model, and you can go beyond the physical model. So if you wanted to do like a linear pickup selection where it's just sliding to a different part of the pickup, you could do that, or you could have it modulate like automatically by some BPM, or tempo sync it, things like that, or maybe you have something else in mind. But the point is, a pickup selector is MIA on KeyTar. And so how do you model that? Well, that's probably one of the easier things. You're just going to slap a model of a cabinet or a filter or a mic or whatever they're going to do to simulate the body model of a guitar that's being recorded, the strings being struck, whatever they do to simulate that on an electronic instrument. That's up to them, how they want to implement that. But these are the critical elements that are missing in the, let's say, maturation of the KeyTar. And the point of the KeyTar is we go from the basic concept of a piano you can strap on your shoulder, or we get a little closer to a piano that makes cool synth leads, which is what the KeyTar became. And then we get even a little closer than that, where we're now developing a new kind of instrument that actually blurs the worlds of guitar and synthesizer, which is really the point in terms of sound design. Because what's the point if you want to play guitar, play guitar. If you want to play a synthesizer, play a synthesizer. So what we want to do here is have something that does a little bit of both, but doesn't master either, because it's mastering its own world, which is kind of like a KeyTar 2.0. So you develop a new way of creating, let's say, lead and rhythm sounds from the KeyTar, because that's kind of the point of the magic of the guitar, is that it does so much all by itself in so many ways. And so you would be able to play this like a violin, just like you can do on a guitar, using the sliders and all this kind of stuff, and on this section as well. So imagine you can just click and drag a whole chord. Even that in itself is a cool idea. So instead of just using like a pitch bend wheel, because what it is that it frees up your hand. Now, that having the fretboard, which is actually working as the chord side, set up this way, it enables you to have different functionality built into other stuff that you would normally need to make it register here, so that you wouldn't need to use key switches, is what I'm saying. So because we have built in this concept of making a mute to open as a fretboard, we no longer need to have other options to depress on key switches to do that. So that therefore frees that up to other things, so that if you want additional parameters and additional modulations, that's open. That's when it will become more from KeyTar to XRiff spectrum guitar, which is the ultimate end game, where you're developing a totally incredible, cool, standalone, pulls from spectrums of sound, creates whole new worlds of sound. That's kind of a different beast, but this is a foundation for the next generation of KeyTar, I think.